Alright, we're gonna call an old phone number.
Hello?
Hey Dan, it's Sean Schwartz.
I was wondering if that was you. What's going on?
Not a lot. I figured I ought to call you up and pick your brain.
You called me a piece of shit, man. Why would you do that?
Well, let me scroll down through chat and make sure I read it properly, because I don't want to misquote. That's kind of a screwy thing to do, and when people do it to me, I'm not happy about it. We did type a lot, didn't we? Although most of it was in groups.
Yeah, back in the day, but yeah, I was never in those groups. The only time I was doing it was defending you.
And
But I was never part of those people.
I didn't mean in those groups. I meant in the messenger
Oh,
groups.
yeah.
Because it
Yeah,
was you, me, and Layla Johnson.
Yeah, like I said, I never knew her. I never knew any of those people.
I didn't either.
She was talking to you and asking me if I could help out, and I said sure. But so obviously, I thought she was a good person. I thought she was trying to help you out, so I was glad to help. But yeah, if I knew she was, obviously, I would have told you. I was trying to help you.
I wholeheartedly believed you, and I believed her too. But the thing is, like,
So did I.
oh wow, I have pictures of me at Tom Nelson's house with the dogs I sent you. I forgot I did that.
Yeah, we actually talked quite. I mean, we had our arguments, but
we certainly did. The biggest one was actually over Shannon Alvarado.
yeah.
And that's actually
Yeah,
the one I'm looking for.
Sometimes I try to stick up for people if I think. I mean, I didn't know about the whole alcoholism and all that stuff, but I just know she was trying to help out. I know she wasn't giving you the help you needed, but I mean, at least she was trying, unlike, some of your closer friends.
She was trying, and see, that's the thing with all these people that were actually trying. Like with Shannon, she really did legit want to. The problem is, with her drinking, it was an issue. And with Layla Johnson, with her not being the person that she said that she was, I mean, how was I going to get help from her?
Yeah, she's obviously just a rotten person. I guess I was told she's Laura, which is the mom of Layla. I heard something like that.
Yeah,
one of those web sleuths told me that. I don't remember the girl's name, but yeah, just
every time she was going to help me, she had herself a major issue that ended up not being real. She manufactured the pictures of her all wet and stuff, saying she was trying to drown herself in a lake and shit. You type to me.
I didn't know that.
Millions of people go through hell on earth and unfortunately never receive help. The only choice is to keep moving on. People dying from cancer would give anything to have another chance at living. I know I suck when it comes to sympathy, but that's for the girls. And that's the nicest part, because on the phone that I had at the time, you typed a lot meaner stuff. I'm glad that, you're able to talk to me like a person now. I didn't want to talk to you after that, obviously.
I mean, generally the only time I started getting mad was, when you just acted like I wasn't doing anything for you and stuff like that. But I wasn't trying to just be a money man. I mean, I was really trying to help you. People think I'm a very good person. I help the unfortunate and I try to help people out. I'm far from perfect, but I was only trying to help you, man.
And see, that's a big thing, A lot of people were trying to help, and that is extremely important. But the other important part was for people to actually speak up. The situation with Layla Johnson, I mean, oh my God, dude, that was the. All right, like for example, you remember when you rented me the room in Longmont, the Super 8?
Yeah.
And I'd already been there, what was it, 3 days or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was able to see the lady's name when they redid my room that morning, and I actually wrote it down somewhere. It's Lisa something or other, and I looked her name up, and she's a social worker in New Jersey, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I looked her up, that was Layla's friend who was going to help me, and she had a lot of friends who were going to help me that really didn't have good intentions, and there was a lot of them
Yeah.
that really did. I mean, Sally Treon's, that was a good intention thing, but it just ended up being a screwed up situation.
Yeah, some of those girls are just complete fakes. I just don't understand what they can gain from that stuff. I don't. I entered a
Prestige.
couple of those groups just to say they started saying that I was fake, and I'm like, listen, ladies, I don't have anything to hide. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm Dan Fabert. You can ask me any question you want. I'm one thing I am is honest. I don't. I get mad like anybody else, but I'm 100% Dan Faber. So,
I figured I'd call you up. There's a lot of phone numbers that I have because of course, when you are able to get back into your accounts when you've got a phone,
yeah,
it lets you back in. Give me a second. Let me grab the phone. Like, there's a lot of people that if I wanted to harass them, I have the ability to. If I wanted to give their numbers out, I know people that would harass them until they change their numbers, but that's not what I'm after. I'm still after a day in court. Now,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Dual County Sheriff's Department, I've been telling you about them since the very beginning. I'm still having issues with them. They're doing everything they can to block it.
yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, as far as the YouTube account, I've had it a long time, but it was always my wife that was on it. We recently got a divorce, so now I've been using it recently, but I opened it up a long time ago and I've rarely used it until the last couple of months, so that's the main reason it's been up so long. She still uses it, I think. We don't live together anymore, but I barely used YouTube until recently.
Well, I just recently unblocked you so that I could actually find our comments between each other and go through and make sure that the information I have is correct, because a lot of times, like, there's stuff that I go through a video and I listen to it and I'm like, man, that word come out wrong. I said
Yeah,
Colorado when it
yeah.
was Nebraska, or I said Daniel Faber when it was Daniel Kitlitz,
Oh, yeah.
or one of the biggest ones, there was quite a few Laylas. The lady who was pretending to be an autism advocate Shannon had exposed.
Hmm.
God, what's her name? Kara Johnson Miles.
Yeah, yeah, there's so many of those names, it's hard to keep track of them.
It is. But one of
But,
the things I'm looking at on my phone right now, I've got, um, there's a lady named Bobby from Chapel. She's the one that let me know the lowdown on one of the child molesters in town that I told his story, and then he was able to realize enough about the story. Somebody got a hold of him because everybody in town already knew. They knew him well enough to let him know that I'd made a story about him, even though I hadn't used his name. And he told me I couldn't go into Pump and Pantry anymore, so I went, I'm gonna expose his name. I was just trying to explain how naughty this town was. But I got, like, Chelling, that's, what's her name? She's one of the Clang girls, Rachel Clang, and she's
hmm.
one of her sister was her abuser. I got Nancy Bruns's number still, Tom Nelson's number still. That's on this phone. On the other phone that I have, it's got a lot of my predators in it. It's got a lot of people who, they meant well, but they were game players.
Yeah,
I tried to get people to look at those and watch those videos because I had to record them after the fact. That's one of the big issues with them playing those games and also destroying their accounts, destroying evidence and things like that, is that they keep trying to say that I gave out these people's names and taking me to court, or not their names, their phone numbers, and trying to take me to court over it. I'm like, my numbers were given out. I didn't give out theirs. I still have their numbers and I could give them out if I wanted to, but what good would that do me?
yeah. Yeah, she even asked me to help some other homeless person out a couple of times, and I found out that it wasn't even a person, so she got some money from me too. So
Oh,
yeah,
God.
so unfortunately we both got screwed by her, but yeah, like I said, I really have nothing to hide. I was always sticking up for you on the online things. I don't think you'll ever find some of our arguments between us. Yeah, it got a little ugly, but I never talked bad about you, behind your back. Never. I was always sticking up for you. So that's definitely, yeah, I never did that. Any of those groups or any of those psycho ladies, yeah, I always spoke good about you. So you don't ever have to think that. That's not my style.
Well,
If I have an issue, we'll talk about it. But
one of the things about being a dick like that, I mean, when you're a dick to people like that, oftentimes they want to defend themselves, and the things that they should have come forward about to begin with, they end up coming forward about because they're pissed off. Um, to claim that that is a manipulation technique that's correct. It is a manipulation technique. People used it on me. That's where I learned it. But I
yeah,
mean, as I go back through here, I'm looking at it. There's a couple of times where you tried to send me money electronically and it didn't work.
hmm
There's also, oh, here you were asking me, all of these tough guys hiding behind Facebook. How many different ages have you been called? 42 and now 50? And then
oh
there's,
yeah, yeah,
of course, some more of the threats that obviously I wasn't threatening you. I was showing the threats that I was given. I actually was put on a Facebook ban for posting those up and saying, see, these things are really happening. But then there's also when you had sent me money, that's in here.
hmm
I mean, that's all stuff that I had spoken up about. But then, oh, here's another phone number that I don't have anymore. And here's your phone number. And like, all this stuff is stuff that I saved for a reason. I saved all of those receipts and put them in a bag. I made
yeah,
sure that I had evidence of the truth. Here's one from, uh, let's see, February 10th of 2018 at 2:23 p.m. And it's a money transfer for, let me open the picture. You sent me $150 on that day. And that's where, like, when people did good stuff for me, I admitted that they did good stuff for me. When they sent me
yeah,
money,
yeah.
I admitted that they spent money. But the other thing is, like, people arguing in the Facebook groups, that ended up making things a lot worse. I had a few people that were friends with me in real life who spoke up for me in those Facebook groups, and everybody called their account fake accounts. And since they were homeless and didn't have and didn't have the money to or the ID or any of that they were able to get their account back, they wanted to be hateful and angry at me and accuse me
Mm.
of destroying their account because they stuck up for me. I'm like, I didn't destroy your account for sticking up for me.
Yeah, those
People,
web sleuths can be nasty, can't they? They're some evil people.
yep, but
And they have power, too. It's like they have these whole groups on their side. It's like they're internet police.
yeah, except, well, yeah, exactly like the police. If they work together to destroy evidence, they're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
There's another thing that's really been bugging me, like ever since the Boulder police got permission to get into my accounts. Um, a lot of people have offered to help me, and then as soon as they offer to help me, they're no longer friends of mine. There's a lady now, her name is Mandy Singer, um, and she's helped me go through that. We've actually had a few people already, just while I was over at her place, that were making fake accounts and pretending to be people that I knew. One of them is Marie
Mm.
Long, and I like Marie, I really do. She's almost as crazy as the rest of Chapel, but she doesn't live in Chapel, so she's slightly less crazy.
Mm.
But there's that lady Desiree that I rescued. I'm not sure if you remember that. You had sent me some money, and I used it to go to Wyoming and pick her up.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
I keep getting a lot of people pretending these people don't exist or these people didn't help me and all that kind of stuff. And of course, going through and trying to verify it with people is pretty important.
hmm
Um, obviously, like you had said that the Secret Service had talked to you. Did they do that over the phone or did they come see you in person?
No, it was during work actually. I was at GE and they called right in the middle while I was working. So you had mentioned me talking to them. I didn't have any kind of time. I was right in the middle of work. So and they certainly weren't interested in a conversation. So, yeah, I think I typed it back. They asked me if you were violent, and I said you wouldn't hurt anybody. And then we just kind of talked and said that they also felt it was more just to get their attention and then to get your voice heard. So I think they felt the same way. But yeah, it was a very short conversation. I wasn't on break or anything. I was actually in the production floor. So I saw an unusual number, so I answered it right in the middle of work. So,
Well,
so yeah, I didn't have a chance.
a lot of people want to pretend like I didn't try to contact the FBI and that I didn't, you know, when Miss Peaches had taken me to that meeting, it was supposed to be Miss Peaches, you know, was going to go in with me, but she had her youngest son with her, so at the last minute we weren't able to go in together. And when I went in, of course, they didn't. None of them had body cameras on. And when I said there was the Secret Service was there, the FBI was there, and at least 3 other police agencies, like I wasn't kidding.
Yeah, I feel bad you and Peaches aren't friends anymore. It seemed like you two were pretty close.
God, I love her so much, you got no idea. But then, you know, she was friends with one of my predators, one of the people who was threatening to kill me and harassing me and stuff. His name is Blaine McCrelius. You remember I was telling you about when I left Ken and Leah's, like on the 26th of December, and I went to Miss Peach's? That was the lady who had attacked me with her bosom.
Yeah, I don't think I remember that one.
Alright, well, it was a long time ago, and I might have just made a few YouTube videos about it, or Facebook videos, I don't know. But with that whole situation, Blaine McCrelius was Don Bird's ex-boyfriend. He was also one of the dealers that often came over and supplied Ken and Leah with what they had. Now, he, obviously, you know, these people that hate me, there's all the good things that I said about people, and nobody was taking those videos and sending them to the people that I was talking about and saying, hey, you know, Sean is talking about all the good things you did. Sean was talking about all the good things you did. What they wanted to do is they wanted to wait until I said something that they could twist into something it wasn't, and then they're like, see what Sean said, see what Sean said. And of course Miss Peaches had called me. She was pissed off because like she had admitted to dealing drugs and stuff like that in some of those videos, those, you know, the ones that I made at Shannon Alvarado's. But you know, it wasn't the videos that pissed her off. It was I mean, they did piss her off. That's not the part that made us not be friends anymore, though. It's the fact that she thought that with the Blaine McCrelius thing, between me and him, it was probably better to have him in her life because, well, money. Like, Peaches is one of those people I was telling you about that was a drug dealer out of necessity. Like, she's got kids, her boyfriend at the time did not have a job. She was working security at the 29th Street Mall in Boulder, and you know, she did a ton for me, and that's like one of the biggest things is that, you know, I didn't need people to treat me like shit. I just needed them to verify I was telling the truth about those stories. With Miss Peaches, I needed her to verify that I was telling the truth. With you, I needed you to verify that I was telling the truth. With all of these people.
Verify to who? The police?
To the public. I mean, that's
and we were, right?
Well, see, that's the part about the arguing in Facebook groups thing. Like, a lot of people didn't understand what speaking out is or what the difference is. A lot of people haven't been actively involved in that enough. And for me, like, I've marched with Black Lives Matters. I've laid down in the middle of Pearl Street with Black Lives Matters. You know, I've been fighting for our rights for a long time. Now, obviously my belief in Black Lives Matters is that they're a racist hate group, but also that doesn't mean that I'm not going to stand up for black rights.
All right.
I got a whole list of people that I was in jail with, and even some people in prison that I was in there with that, you know, the only reason they was in there is because they were homeless black people.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I still have their names, and I still have part of their stories. I'm still fighting for their rights, and obviously with Desiree, even in her screwed up situation, I still helped.
Well, I don't think Black Lives Matter started out that way. I think it kind of branched that way, but It
Very much
started out,
so.
look, we matter too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And they
So I
still
think it
matter.
started in a good
Yep.
way, but then kind of branched out into, you know, to violence. But I mean, it was a good thing at first.
I agree. And I think you know, there's a good possibility that effective change can be made within the organization itself, as well as a lot of the people that want to claim to be part of such an organization, because mostly it's not an organization, it's a movement. And,
Right, right.
the
And I do
nature
think
of
it
movement
helped.
changes. I think that movement could go back to what the original issue was to begin with, which is police brutality and the fact that nobody's doing anything about it.
Exactly.
Best
So
way
I
to
do
do.
think it brought up, it made the topic more, it's more aware now, and it certainly made some change. It just, some took advantage of it and, made it into a cult or, something
Yep.
like that.
Well, that's very much what they've done here in Nebraska. They've taken the whole BLM movement and they've introduced laws to make it more illegal to do these things to people of color. I'm like, it's already illegal. We make it more illegal every 10 years. We cycle through the same stuff to appease people, but in reality, the only thing that is going to do anything to change it is to have body cameras and to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
effective public defenders. I mean,
yeah.
if they're not doing their jobs, go
It can
ahead.
only be illegal. You can't make it more illegal. Either they're doing it or they're not doing it.
Yep, and the problem is enforcement. I mean, when we
Exactly.
see
Yeah.
all of these officers who got busted, we only have the parts where they got busted on camera.
Yeah.
And also, there's the access to their body cameras. For me, they
So,
kept on pressing false charges on me so that I couldn't gain access to their cameras or turn them into the other law enforcement.
so that's still not a law. Body cameras on cops.
It's all right. When they first passed the body camera laws in Colorado, I actually had helped to petition for that for the safety of the homeless in specific. And then they passed the body camera laws for the safety of the officers. Now, after Natalie died, they made it so that any time that a officer in Colorado is interacting with a suspect or doing, their actual job, they have to have their body cameras on. They're not allowed to turn it off. So,
Um,
I mean, it did create effective change in Colorado, and that
mhm.
has brought police brutality down quite a lot. But we need to
Yeah.
do that nationwide. All
Yeah,
these black
definitely.
folks and Native Americans and homeless folks and all these other people who are primary victims of the police, having those body cameras on at all times, when they're interacting in that way, that is the most effective deterrent that we can have. But then there's the tricks that they can use, all the ones that they used on me in 2018 to try to prevent me from having access to those body cameras, like charging me with bogus crimes and then dropping the charges at the last minute. And then, of course, they only drop the charges after there's a better frame job, like they tried to do at Clearview. By the way, Waylon Lolatai got busted on camera assaulting no less than 6 other people in 2018, all of them either homeless or assumed to be homeless.
Yeah. Is he still a cop?
He's a cop in Aurora now, I believe.
Oh, really? Illinois?
Yep. No, sir. Aurora, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
There's an Illinois Aurora too.
It's kind of like the Catholic Church shifting around child molester preachers. If
It's
he's molesting
crazy.
children in New York, we'll just move him to New Jersey, kind of thing,
Yeah, it
which is
seems to
screwed
happen
up.
a lot with cops. They can just go get a job somewhere else. But something's not right there.
Dual County Sheriff's Department only has 500, or Dual County, Chapel, Nebraska itself only has about 500 people, and Big Springs has even less people.
Hmm.
And Scott DaCosta has rolled through over 20 officers in the last 5 years. So, I mean, that's how he's been preventing me from getting these cops turned in. Also, he tells me if I have a problem with his officers to take it to him. So I take it to him, and then, of course, next thing I know, he's helping to cover up their crimes, and then, of course, they get to move on to somewhere else, and then he tells me, oh, they're not here anymore. They are here. That's the thing about, all right, like Jared Hahn, for example. He's a city council member now. They also told me that James Hammond, who was one of the deputies who had committed crimes against me, they said, well, he's not with us anymore. Well, he is still in chapel. Matter of fact, Scott DaCosta is apparently his endorsement for James Hammond to become the Dual County Sheriff.
Hmm.
They pulled a lot of crimes, and this is I want to say the seventh time that they've either trumped up charges on me or taken me to a nuthatch and told them that I was schizophrenic when I tried to turn them in. And, for them to manipulate healthcare workers and hospital staff in that way is a felony.
It's become like the mafia. They're just all in it together.
Yep. But the other thing is, it's a horrible conspiracy. The hallmark of a great conspiracy is that you can't prove it. And with all the evidence I got, it's easy to prove.
Yeah.
Mandy Singer's been helping me out a bit with some of this, and she's been looking at some of the evidence. She's got her own family stuff that's going on that's preventing her from being able to help the way that we agreed. And then there's also the fact that with the situation and the safety issues in chapel, I had to change the agreement as well. So, that's not her fault, and it really put her in a bad position as well. But, one of the things with all this is, I'm really pissed off at everybody for not understanding the situation, but I'm also, like right now, you and I are having a decent conversation, which is pretty easy to do. When people are heated, that doesn't end up happening.
Oh, right.
Now, obviously, with the Secret Service calling you, that does help to prove that I was telling the truth all along, and that, God, that was so screwed up. It's still screwed up. Every one of those situations, I was gaslighted until I had a meltdown, and then I was abused for having a meltdown. And
yeah, now that was the truck fire, right?
No, that was intentional. That I did. I absolutely did that intentionally. It was either kill myself or... And since I couldn't... See, I wanted to go to where Natalie died and blow my head off there, but...
Yeah. Oh, no, this was something about killing the president. Did you do that on social media?
I did. I wrote that out on my Facebook. Obviously,
okay.
with the cops only listening to my predators, I had to do something desperate. So I spent 2 days. I had threatened to kill all the people who threatened to kill me, and I threatened to kill all the people who threatened to kill my family, and I threatened to, if Alicia didn't come forward, of course, all the people who lied, all the people who had assaulted me, all of the people who had assaulted my friends, and so on and so forth. Like, basically, I threatened to kill everybody who had committed crimes against me, and that way anybody who wanted to pretend like I was threatening to kill him would have to admit to one of those crimes. And of course, Natalie's family, that's one of the things they were gaslighting me for, that Kara Johnson Miles lady too. And, they outright lied and claimed that I had threatened them personally, claimed that I had threatened to kill Alicia Bollinger, and it's illegal for them to prevent me from going to court, but that's exactly what they did. And that's the thing with Amanda Jonas. Alyssa Rainwater was pissed off, and Mandy Hughes was pissed off because I told their part of the story and how they were involved. And, just like most people, they don't like being recorded, and they don't like being put on YouTube and all that. And, with you, I just assume you're aware that I recorded it.
Yeah, I got nothing to hide. Doesn't bother me.
I kind of figured. We had that discussion once before, but I just... that's something that, like with Mandy Hughes, she's also aware, or not Mandy Hughes, Mandy Singer, she's already aware that I record everything. And with Mandy Hughes, she was telling me, well, I listen to all your videos, I watch all your videos, and so on and so forth. So I was pretty sure that she already knew. And of course, I didn't do any of that until it wasn't until November of 2018, after I had to flee the state of Colorado, that I started doing that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you've made it pretty clear, I think, to everybody that you do that. So I wouldn't think anybody would be surprised.
I didn't think she'd be surprised either. Now, when she did, and she was throwing a tantrum, I did definitely feel bad for her, and I still, to some degree, do. But the other thing is, she had promised that she was going to go in with me, and every time that she was going to go in with me, there was some reason that she couldn't, and some of her reasons or excuses, rather, whichever the case may be, they were different from what the cops were telling me. And if they allowed her to do those things, but they wouldn't allow me to do those things, there's a major issue there.
Yeah.
And also, she did have a lot of important information. Layla Johnson has a lot of important information. But
Whoever that is.
right, exactly. I
Well, it
did
does
like
sound
her.
like she's real, though. It sounds like it's Laura. So I think she is a real person. She was just pretending to be the daughter. So I suppose if they ever really needed to find her, they would be able to, I guess. A couple of those ladies did know exactly who she was, so I don't remember the girl's name that texted me, but somebody knew. They got her number from, or her name from one of the telephone numbers she used or something, and traced it back. There's some sneaky bitches, those web sleuths.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a few people that actually helped me out and ended up disappearing, and they are real people. One of them, I got their. Give me a second. Oh God, that hurts. Um, there's a lady by the last name of Saltzman, and her husband David Saltzman are both missing still. They were living in Beaverton, Oregon, when there was a fire up there, and apparently she had logged onto her account at some point after the fire, but her phone number doesn't work anymore. I was the only friend she had on her account. There's another guy, the clandestine recording device that I use when I talk to the police and stuff. I got that sent to me from a guy calling himself Daniel Apathy, and I was the only friend he had on his account. So a lot of these people, they're just like Layla Johnson, but the difference is, like, Daniel Fabert wasn't filling me with a bunch of crap like Layla Johnson was. Oh my God, that was so screwed up. The phone sex thing up in Washington, or up in
No,
Montana.
Dan Fabert, that's me.
You are a Dan Fabert. Matter of fact, I unblocked you and I'm looking at your profile now, and it goes all the way back. That's really your face. Those are.
Say that again now? What did I say?
I said, I'm looking at your account right now. It's a real person. You have aged since the last time that I was looking at your pictures. You got more gray, so do I.
Yeah, yes, I do.
But yeah, I unblocked you so I could take a look at it.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I mean, looking at this stuff, it's pretty obvious that this is not a burner account.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely, yeah.
Definitely really you.
Yes, it is.
Well, with you, oh my God, decade challenge 2009 to 2019. Picture a Dan Fabert and picture a Chunk from the Goonies.
Oh, that's how much the last decade's changed me, Sean.
Yeah, I look like the ass end of Weak Dead Water Buffalo too. I did get a shaver though, so I could cut my hair a little bit. I kind of look a little gangly. But a lot of people, I was able to actually see my own mental health providers, which, that's one of the big things, is the cops wanted to cut me off from the resources, prevent me from seeing the people that I needed to see. There's my therapist that I was going to see before Natalie was killed. I went to see her again after Natalie was killed, and she went over apparently to the Sydney Police Department to try to help turn in the crimes, because I was like, hey, this is the thing. I went to you for almost a whole year, and you guys, I'm telling you about the crimes that are happening. You're mandated reporters. Do you or do you not have to go turn that in?" And she said, "Well, I'll go try." And then, while I was in my meeting, she went over there and she came back and said, "Well, they're not gonna take a report from me, and they say it's not in jurisdiction." I'm like, "It's happened across multiple jurisdictions."
Mhm.
The situation that was at the time that I was having the issues with Desiree, and I was trying to hook her up. She was already enrolled with Region 1 and was meeting the same people that I was. Matter of fact, Jane Beebe, who was my caseworker at the time, she is now a guard at the Scottsbluff jail. Guess how I know?
How's that?
This last stint, they arrested me. They took me to Scottsbluff. Well, first they took me to Garden County Jail. The sheriff there since then has been. She got in trouble for beating up her girlfriend, and I believe she pled guilty to it. And then they sent me to Scottsbluff, and then they sent me to prison. I got out of prison last year, and they shipped me from the prison back to Scottsbluff County Jail. And when I was at the Scottsbluff County Jail, that's in Gearing, Jen Beebe was working there.
Really? How long
Yep.
were you in jail?
Um, Altogether, I was locked up for 7 months. About 6 months of that was in the prison. Here in Nebraska, if you're a county safekeep, that means that the county that you have doesn't have the facilities to hold you. Then they can put you literally in prison. They charged me with misdemeanors, all four of the people that I was trying to turn in at the time, and I made it very public on YouTube that that's exactly what I was trying to do, is turn them in. They all, of course, worked together and coordinated together to make sure that I couldn't turn them in. And then they dropped the charges at the last minute. I was told by my public pretender or my public defender. I do need to say public defender with her because she was going to try. She was pissing me off, but they dropped the charges, and her suggestion was that we try to sue them. They committed felonies. They belong in prison. So they're telling they keep changing the rules depending on who it is. Like I was explaining with Zaid Atkinson and all of that, where they told me that they couldn't take my report in Longmont, but that they could do that with Zaid Atkinson and so on. Like it's been a long journey. There's also the guy who was responsible for helping cover up my friend Daniel's death. Not his death, mind you, but the fact that they got a call hours and hours before I found him dead with Tony DeStassi. Now, I did get a recording with Tony DeStassi, and I put it up on my YouTube, and I also got one with Anna and Anna Alford, and those two are actually witnesses to his death and, to his body. So, I mean, it's not like people don't understand the difference between hearsay and being a witness. If I went to you for help and asked you for help, then you can at least attest to the fact that I went to you for help. You are a witness at that point, especially when they write down on my paperwork that I wasn't trying to get help and that nobody would help me probably because of the way that I act. And that's the thing. All these people that were trying to help me at that point, I was not in contact with them, couldn't get in contact with them, and as a result, they were able to railroad me. And, it's not like God, I am so pissed off at everybody. I really am, because they didn't come forward about that. They didn't come forward about the fact that I came to them for help. And then, even with all of the verification that I have of people letting me know that they're being threatened, their families are being threatened and things like that, like, I still am the one who ends up getting railroaded.
Yeah.
Also, Shannon really is badass. That I don't want to give the wrong impression about her. She really is badass.
Alvarado?
Yep. Her issues with her alcoholism, that really is something that she should have disclosed. But also, like when I went there, she had invited me a lot, but when I did go there, it was an emergency thing, and I let her know that I was gonna let her know as soon as I got out of Colorado where I was heading. So I was on the bus when I let her know that I was heading that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is all stuff that she can verify, but obviously her boyfriend Rick McCormick is getting on and making all sorts of claims that are untrue.
Yeah.
And to his understanding, I can understand how some of them are sort of true in his head, but the
Mm-hmm.
reality of the situation is very different.
Yeah, Shannon and I had gotten kind of close on Facebook, so I think that's kind of why I took it a little hard when, you guys were going through your issues. Just because, I mean, she was trying really hard to help you out, even though it didn't work out. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I get close to my friends and stand up for them. So I mean, I did that with you as well. But
Well,
yeah, I just appreciated Shannon trying that hard for someone that she didn't really even know.
yep, and with all of the complete strangers that hopped on and were trying to help, like they did more than my actual friends did. But in the
Yeah.
end, it all came down to people coming forward, writing it down, and making statements. With Shannon, with her alcoholism, that was the biggest issue there. And also, because of alcoholism, there's stuff that goes along with it. And
Oh
without
yeah.
her being willing to admit that she was an alcoholic, she might have quit by now. I don't know. It's been
Yeah,
years.
most of them can't admit it, unfortunately.
Well, that's a lot of the issue too. Like Mandy,
Yeah.
she admits about her addictions. I had gone to her for help after Natalie disappeared, and she was just too addicted. But now she's sober and she's working on her family life, and she's moved away from those people, and she's doing the best that she can. But even she admits that if she was still using, she would not be able to help me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and also with her being able to and willing to admit her addictions, that helps for people to understand that, yes, very much so. I was telling the truth about that. It's not that I hate Shannon. I don't. I absolutely love Shannon. She's great. She's an excellent parent,
Mm-hmm.
but also there's the fact that, yeah, she could have made police reports. If Kara Johnson Miles, who is the lady that Shannon Alvarado exposed, can put her words, her slander, in my court date, then, and she lives in Texas, then absolutely Shannon Alvarado could do it from California. And I get
Yeah.
that it's embarrassing for her, just like it's embarrassing for Brett Roloff to know that, yeah, there's a video on my YouTube of him digging through his own feces trying to find a meth bag.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I saved evidence of all of that. At Shannon Alvarado's, though, like, I was legit afraid that, like, for her, with the rules during the day, was not to make videos during the day, or, well, actually, it was not to make any calls to, like, police and stuff like that during the day because of her daughter. She was afraid of getting her daughter taken away if they heard her screaming. And, that's one of the things about having an autistic kid, is that it is not the same thing. When you have a nonverbal autistic child, you are in a really tough position, and you're not being abusive when that child is screaming. It's not because you're abusive. That child is screaming because there's a sensory overload issue.
I
Now,
dug through the garbage for a bottle of Afrin one time.
what's that?
That nose spray.
Oh,
You get addicted to it. Your nose, it swells up. It works real well and then swells up like 4 or 5 hours later. You never took that stuff before?
no, I was never a sniffer. I never. I
It's
took.
just
Go ahead.
decongestant.
I probably should get some then, but I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
yeah. It doesn't. It works great for a little while, but then your nasal passages get used to it and it gets worse and worse. It's like a rebound. You get that rebound congestion. So
like
that's
taking
nasty shit.
like taking heavy pain medications. When you
Yeah,
take the heavy pain medications, it kind of dulls the pain a little bit, but it doesn't take it away.
yeah.
But then as soon as it wears off, the pain is 10 times stronger than before you took
Yep.
the pill.
You need more and more. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of stuff that would be so easy for these people to admit to, as long as they were willing to get sober. But that's a lot of the stuff, like with Natalie. She wanted to get sober. She went to go see her family in Virginia so that she could get sober. And she's telling me, my family is driving me crazy. Every time
Well,
I try to
Ted's a
tell them.
piece of shit.
Oh my
Ted's the
God,
biggest
yes.
problem with that family.
I have some messages between me and Rose Kelly, actually, where she verifies that. Like, I don't
He
know how.
ruined that whole family.
Very much so. And I do feel bad for Rose. I've said a lot of really mean, nasty stuff, but, I did try to let her know what was going on before Natalie was killed. I let her know on uh, December 9th that, the way that I was being treated and all of that. And she didn't even bother to look at it. And then, when I got served the protection order after exposing Ted with her email, I thought, well, I'll just leave these people alone, and I'll let the cops do their jobs. But the first thing I'm dealing with is Rose getting on my Facebook and calling me a stalker and being all sorts of mean and cruel. And I got Ted getting a hold of me all sorts of nasty. I've got Danica, well, both of her ex-stepmoms, Danica and Miss Shelley, both getting a hold of me, pretending like they're going to be friends with me and they're going to try to help and they're only interested in finding the truth and all this, that, and the other. But then it ended up just being massive head games with the police.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of people, like Candace Bondurant. I was able to get the pictures that I needed of that situation, of the messages that she had sent me. And I also recorded a couple of conversations with her mom that verified the situation. And God, her mom especially was pissed off about that. So, I mean, it's not like I haven't been trying. It's not that I haven't collected the evidence. It's not like I haven't posted it up. But, the other thing is, I understood, when you and I were typing and I was at Shannon's and I was like, you know what, I'm sick of Dan. I tried explaining to him that this stuff is an issue over your alcoholism and, your drinking, and he wants to be mad at me. And she said,
Yeah.
well, I'll talk to him. I said, you know what, don't even bother talking to him. It's not going to do any good. He's made up his mind.
Yeah, I guess maybe I was just kind of caught in the middle, but.
And I feel bad for every single one of these people who fought for me, every single one of these people who stuck up for me, because, going through the messages and the stuff between me and Cara Rogers and me and Aaron Cockerham, like, those two women were at each other's throats. Cara Rogers had threatened to kill Aaron, and even
Erin
though
Cockerham, I think I'm still Facebook friends with her. Is she a decent person? Do you know much about her?
I think she is a decent person,
Okay.
but I don't know for certain. I know that when she found out that I recorded her and put her on my YouTube channel, she was pissed off, just like everyone else. Take it down! That's what they all say. Take it down. If
Well,
it's
that
the
makes
truth,
me
you
wonder
shouldn't have
then
said
if
it.
maybe they have something to hide.
And see, me too. There's a lot of people who are missing as well. Like, you remember, I'm not sure if I was in contact with oh yeah, that would have been after I left Shannon's, so that would have been after you and I argued and stopped talking. There's a guy who was friends with Natalie. His name is Bobby Forrest, and he let me know
That doesn't
about.
sound familiar.
Well, I got in contact with him. Well, he reached out to me when I was in Washington State, and he had let me know that Alicia Bollinger was missing, so I made a post to help find her. She went missing 2 more times after that, and both times he let me know, and both times I posted up that she was missing. Matter of fact, one of them, she went missing on my birthday in 2019. I had just left a place called Bristol, Virginia, where I was staying with Brett. That's the one who was digging through his own shit. I had just left there, and I went to go see a lady named Jamie Curtis in Washington State, or not Washington, Rapid City, South Dakota. But when I got there, I hadn't even gotten off the bus when Bobby got a hold of me and let me know Alicia was missing. So, like, as I was getting off the bus, that's when the message rang, and like right as I was getting off the bus is when I was reading it. So I made a video about that. We had an ice storm there, and it was blowing probably about 20-25 miles an hour, and it was cold. And I was waiting on Jamie to show up. I was going to go stay at her house, and she was actually going to take me up the mountains so I could die. That was
yeah.
the plan. But instead of doing that, she didn't have time, and she didn't have time, and I found out a lot of other stuff that had been going on with her and James while I was up there. So I mean, it was an enlightening experience, to say the least. I was also able to record with her son, which, obviously she's not happy about that. It is on my YouTube, but that's one of the ones that's private because he was only 14 at the time. But I mean, damn. I also got 3 or 4 recordings with James Payton, and I've also spoken with a lot of other people that were, including a couple of James's ex-girlfriends and also one of Jamie's ex-boyfriends, and pretty much all of them verify that Jamie has been physically violent in nearly all of her relationships, and that it's likely that James was just trying to defend himself from physical violence from her. And I can't verify or deny that because I wasn't there. All I can verify is the extensive bruising. But this is my new number. I'd like to try to keep in contact with you. I don't want to argue, and I don't want to fight.
Yeah, that's fine. And I don't mind writing stuff down. I don't. Originally, what I thought you were wanting was to actually go into the police office and accuse them of harassing and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're looking for you being threatened with all these web sleuths and all that kind of stuff, I mean, obviously, I don't have proof of that anymore, but I certainly know it all happened and things like that. So I could certainly, I don't have internet access right now, but I recently moved to Wisconsin. My parents passed away. I got a divorce. I lost my job to COVID. So a lot of shit's happened to me. So I moved to Wisconsin. But I can certainly write, a statement. I don't know if I'd be very good at it, but I don't mind doing that kind of stuff. But so yeah, if you need anything like that, I could do it.
Yes, sir. A lot of the issue with trying to turn in the police, the thing that I needed for my own safety was for people to go in with, at the beginning at least, was for people to go in with me because I already know how the police treat homeless people. I needed to be able to turn in the things that the Bollingers had done and were doing and had been continuing to do, and I needed to be able to, obviously, with the police ignoring me and blowing me off the way that they did, that was the only way to do it. And, Cara Rogers was that's what Cara Mia's real name is, apparently. Detective Jai Rogers actually verified that, so I don't know, maybe it's his wife or some crazy stuff, I don't know. But her account is apparently gone. She erased it. The last I checked, but that I have screenshots of it from the last time I checked, which is probably over a year ago now, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, most of the police harassment and threats and stuff like that, you didn't see because that happened to you one-on-one, so it was hard to see a lot of that. But
and that's where the body cameras came in.
Harassment, I saw all of that. So.
Yep, and see, that's the thing in court is that with the Bollingers doing that stuff and people not writing reports about it and not turning that in. I tried explaining from the very start that Kara Johnson Miles lady, all it would have taken is for Shannon Alvarado to actually make a police report about what had happened, and that would have made all the difference in the world. But she kept saying, well, I can't, I'm in California. Well, Kara Johnson Miles did it from all the way in Texas.
So what do you think, what would happen? If they saw all of that stuff, what would that do? How would they handle that?
Well, first they would have to have a professional standards review. In that case, the officers involved would Well, they'd likely to get a slap on the wrist, but
That's
this
what,
is,
yeah, that's what I was wondering, because it seems like that kind of crap happens every day on Facebook. They're terrible about monitoring that stuff.
well, the police would just get a slap on the wrist, but these other people, they could potentially face charges because there's, is it the SCOPA law? Is that right? I'm probably
I'm not
saying it
sure.
wrong, but it's, if there's more than 5 people doing it, it's considered a gang.
Really?
And because it's been ongoing for 5 years, and also
They could,
because they had misrepresented everything in court, although the
mm,
officers would only get a slap on the wrist, they would have to go through and review some of the other cases by these officers and some of the other cases against me, and that right there would open up a big old can of worms, but it would also change laws. Natalie would still be alive if those laws had been implemented beforehand.
mm. Yeah, because
Um,
they could look at one of those uh, Facebook groups and find a hell of a lot more than five.
yep. They could also, the stuff that they're trying to claim from me that are threats, because there's only 2 times that I actually threatened any sort of harm against people. One of them was when after the incident at my grandmother's funeral, and that was Ted's third strike with me. That was the third
Mm-hmm.
time that people had used my fear for their safety to manipulate me, and of course, all of them used Ted to do that. That would be Rochelle Shelley Campbell and Alicia Bollinger and um, Danica Garner as well. I mean, all of these
Mm-hmm.
people were letting me know how afraid that they were of Ted, but why didn't they ever stand up to him? And it makes sense why they didn't.
Yeah.
But also, for me to get my stuff seen and to get my stuff heard, I've had to be an incredible asshole. Now, with Shannon Alvarado, I don't hate her at all. Matter of fact, I don't hate Rick either. I know exactly why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I gotta play hardball. I gotta pretend that my testicles are bigger than they are.
Yeah.
But with the stuff they're trying to pretend that are threats, they're absolutely not. The
Mm-hmm.
stuff where they're claiming that I threatened their family, absolutely not. The parts where I made several videos about the corruption in Chapel, Nebraska, and in the videos I was talking about how I'm not willing to kill people, how people keep telling me, oh well, if that happened to me, I'd shoot them, or if that happened to me, they'd never find them, they'd be in a ditch somewhere, and all this, that, and the other, and that stuff really freaks me out. Even
Yeah.
Shannon
Yeah.
did
You're
that.
not like that at all.
And Shannon's not a violent person. She's not.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing
Yeah.
stuff like that out of her, she doesn't say it when she's sober, but when she's drinking, she definitely talks like that, and it is
Oh
very
yeah.
scary.
An angry drunk.
Yep. Usually she starts off, depending on if Rick's drinking or not, she could be a happy drunk, and a lot of times she was a happy drunk, but the arguments were, once the argument started, there was no getting happy drunk her back. There was no chance
Mm-hmm.
of it. And I
Yeah.
just
Maybe
tell
it
her,
depended on her personality, how she was feeling before she started drinking. Maybe
yep.
enhanced her personality like weed.
And a lot of folks, they wanted to use, alcoholism as an excuse why I should just let these people get away with it. You know, no, people need to take responsibility for their actions, whether they were drunk or not. And making the excuse of, oh, he was probably drinking, or oh, she was probably drinking. And obviously, I'm not talking about Shannon in specific in this one. I'm actually referring to Robert Warnick, who is a sex offender who has threatened my life repeatedly and assaulted me. He's
Yeah. You
friends
can't
with
use it
Leslie
as an
Snell.
excuse.
Well, he's friends with Leslie Snell, who works for Scott DaCosta, and Scott DaCosta is the sheriff I've been trying to turn in, and oh my god, it's just a big giant hornet's nest.
Yeah. Yeah. I could imagine.
Now, there's some stuff that people try to put in there that is true to try to offset the parts where they're being dishonest, and I'm like, I'll admit to the stuff I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I have big turds. If I clogged your toilet, I clogged your toilet.
Right. Right.
If, you know, somebody's going to tell me, oh, well, it was probably the kids putting stuff in the toilet. Well, maybe it was the kids. Maybe it was me. It could have been me. I'm notorious for clogging toilets. I got big turds.
TMI, Sean.
You're welcome. Now, right now, I'm in McCook. I've made a few videos about the missing women of Hardin, Montana. Right now, I'm doing a little bit of information gathering about the human trafficking here in McCook. One of the greatest things about this town is there's minorities here.
Where did you say you're at? Cook?
McCook, M-C-C-O-O-K.
Oh, McCook, Tennessee?
Nebraska.
Oh, Nebraska, okay.
Yep, I can't leave the state of Nebraska until this court stuff's over. I've been fighting 5 years for a court date. If this is the closest I'm going to get, it's the closest I'm going to get. But yep, I definitely, Rick he's been ignoring me for a few years. He got onto my channel yesterday, or day before yesterday, and was typing a bunch of stuff, and some of it was useful, but most of it's not.
Yeah.
Brett,
I've been on YouTube a lot more lately since I lost my job, so I've been a little bored lately, so
Are they giving
I've been on there.
Are they giving you unemployment?
Yeah, I've been getting unemployment, and I did just get a job starting on the 14th, so.
Very good.
Yeah, so it should be all right. But man, it's colder than hell out in Wisconsin. It was negative 35 with the wind chill last night.
Yeah, I had to sleep 5 nights out in my car here in McCook, and it was below zero a couple of them nights, but I'm recovering now. I was able to rent a hotel room.
Today it's 20, so it feels like a heat wave. So I guess that's the only good thing about cold weather.
Well, now, I was able to rent a hotel room for a whole week. They got a tweaker problem at the hotel room, so the rule is only 2 people in the hotel room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I actually recorded the conversation with the guy who runs the place, so I got all that verified too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, one thing you could ask Shannon about, and I don't know about Rick. He's got it in his head, however he's got it in his head.
But,
all these people will admit that I'm a different person in real life than I am on the internet.
Well, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are on the phone too. But you've gone through hell. I understand it. Why you get frustrated. So.
Now, with you, typing that stuff to me because you were being defensive for Shannon, I do get that.
I'm pretty protective of friends, but you're no different. I've stuck up for you a million times too, and I'll continue to do that. So, once someone's on my side, I'm there for them for life. So, but yeah, I have an attitude occasionally too. I have plenty of faults.
Me too, and that's one of the biggest things, is that the people who admit that they're not perfect are the most useful for me, because that means that they'll admit when they screwed up. It's when people can't admit it, or can't admit how scary the environment becomes in that situation, that does shut me down, and it is very, very scary. Now, then there's also, when I was there, she did actually quit drinking for a week, and she was a nervous wreck that whole time. She spent most of her time asking me how to get away with a UA if they decided to make her take a UA. And meanwhile, she wasn't having to go through that because of anything she did. She had to go through that because she had said that her ex was physically violent. And I'm like, now they're going to victimize you because you told on your ex? That's not right, first of all. Second of all, the only way that you can pass a UA on alcohol is not to drink.
Mm-hmm. Well, my dad was an alcoholic, and he did try to stop a few times. He hid it pretty well, but he said the withdrawals were so awful that he just couldn't handle it. He'd see things, hallucinate, and it was just awful for him, so... He did try several times, but he didn't get real bad until he retired. It's like he didn't have anything to do, so he just started drinking. So yeah, I feel her pain. My dad really struggled with it.
Well, one thing I can say for Shannon, she is not physically violent. She would not hit her kids in a million fucking years. There's no way in hell. They're
Yeah, that's
not
good.
in an unsafe environment, you know. I mean, they're when Rick stuck his hands on her daughter, she kicked him out of the house.
Really?
She did. But then she also had me go out and look for him because she was
Yeah.
worried about him. So
That's a good mom.
yeah, you know, walking around Sherman Oaks looking for the boyfriend she just kicked out was a little bit weird, you know. Some
Yeah, that's
hobo
true.
looking
Yeah.
dude in a rich neighborhood like that. But there's homeless people all over down there.
Yeah.
They got their tent set up on the sidewalk. They build little houses out of cardboard on the sidewalk. I mean, it's you would not get away with that in Boulder, Colorado.
Mm.
They'll come and take your stuff and tase you while they're at it.
Damn.
But also, I mean, there's racism is really prevalent among the police down there in Los Angeles County still. Whereas, like Boulder, Colorado, those cops are not racist. Even if they are racist, they keep their racism to themselves because, you know, any black person that they encounter could potentially be the child of an alumni or somebody who is a current athlete for CU, or they could be, you know, an alumni themselves that was an athlete, and
Oh,
if they
that's
get
in
assaulted by
Colorado?
the yeah,
Yeah.
if they get assaulted by the border police or the police tase them or anything like that's going to hit national news quick. So
Wow.
I mean, as far as trying to keep their liberal image, they're the nicest towards black people of anywhere that I've ever lived,
Mm.
and that's not a joke. But then
Mm.
there's also the fact that if they think you're homeless, they're going to do messed up stuff to you.
Wow.
When they had the Zaid Atkinson situation, I still speak out about that because they have a charge in Boulder, and it's a joke among the homeless, but it's really not a joke. It's called Black in Boulder. If you're a black homeless man in Boulder, they want to arrest you more than they want to arrest anyone else.
Mm.
Because, you know, the racist cops, they can't be racist to the CU students or, you know, black people who look like they're an upstanding member of the community. But if they look like they're homeless, like, oh yeah, that's like a free
Oh.
license to get away with it.
Oh, so it's like they go extra on them because they can't in other areas.
Yep.
Mm.
But that's also, like, with Darren O'Connor, a lot of the stuff that he was supposedly doing for the homeless, much of the homeless community is extremely pissed off at him because he just ended up stabbing us all in the back. We tried to have faith in him, you know.
Was that one dude that just helped one person out and nobody else?
All right, when Tony Kovaleski did his special on Officer Waylon Lolatai, the one who had assaulted me in January of 2018, Darren O'Connor told him about all of the other victims, but he didn't say a damn thing about me. And the thing was that I was giving him information about some of the other victims, and in exchange, he was going to help me out, and then he threw me under the bus. And then some of the other victims that I was speaking with, they were wanting to tell me I should go to Darren O'Connor, and I was like, that's not going to work. Darren O'Connor already threw me under the bus.
Mm.
So Samuel Leon Lawrence IV was one of them, and Michelle Rodriguez was one of them, and
Mm.
it's just been a big mess. And then there's a guy named Evan Ravitz, and he was kind of friends with Darren O'Connor, but Darren O'Connor slandered the shit out of him too. So I mean, it's
Mm.
our heroes in houses aren't exactly heroes, and our
Yeah.
heroes on the streets are never heard. So I'm
It
trying to
doesn't
lend a
help to be a
voice.
guy. If you're a cute homeless girl, you'll get help in a second.
You will, but also there's the dangers that come with that. And a lot of
Yeah.
women that I knew when I was homeless, they're coming forward and speaking out about, you know, the sheer number of rapes that happen when you're homeless and how the cops just simply don't give a shit, you know.
They'll act like they'll help you, and they're really just trying to
Yep.
take advantage.
And a lot of the pretty girls that we call them travelers. There's different types of homeless people, and most of the time the pretty girls are travelers, and they travel with road dogs, and they could potentially end up in a situation like, Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. But for the most part, like, if there is anyone who is homeless who's going to be heard, it's going to be one of them. If there's anybody on the streets who is protected more than anybody else, it's them. It's the pretty travelers.
Yeah.
If there's
That
anybody,
doesn't surprise me.
doesn't surprise me either. But it's one thing to see it, and it's another thing to live it. And for me, seeing all of the things that they got, and all of the help that they got that no other homeless person would ever get in a million years, and these girls are getting it. But then there's also the price that comes with it, the expectations that come with it. Kind of like Mahalia when she was in Richmond, Virginia. She's an artist, and she was trying to make a go of it in Richmond, and she had a baby, and of course she'd paid her rent, so she should have been fine to stay at the place that she was. But then, as it turned out, the guy wanted more than just money. He had expectations of her, and we can't have that. And when that happens, guys are expected to do the right thing and rescue her. But you know how guys are, especially if they've got a family, and especially if they've got work and stuff. They say, well, I can't, I'm sorry, you're on your own. And then it comes to somebody like me who's an idiot to go rescue them. Thank goodness her dad rescued her before I got there.
Yeah.
But I was gonna see if maybe you might be able to possibly do what do you call that? If I gave you some time to collect notes on what you remember and what you've seen and who was involved, I was wanting to see if I could have a actual professional type interview with you, mostly where you answer your own questions.
Yeah, I could probably do that. Yeah, I'll definitely have to write some stuff down because it has been a while, but I think I'd remember some stuff.
All right. I'm going to send you a friend's request on Facebook. You don't have to accept it, but I am going to type something to you in Messenger just so that it brings it up to the top of my Messenger. Otherwise, it'll take me 2 years worth of scrolling backwards.
Okay, sounds good. And I'll add your name back on my contacts list since this is a new number.
Yep. And do you have the phone that you had back then?
No, I bet you it's a new phone.
All right. Well, I guess you won't be able to.
I think this one's only 2 years old. I think this one's a newer one.
All right. Well, I guess you won't be able to pull any of the evidence from then back, but that'll work.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go and post up my video and all that.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks a bunch. Be safe.
Okay, man. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye. My body hurts, of course. It's the very end of being sick. But I just started feeling actually ill, like I had the flu or something last night. So the fact that I'm on the recovery end is a good thing. Been trying not to cough, but life happens.